Good day, students. Today we're going to be talking about the life of Esther. Esther was a young woman who became queen, rather inadvertently, of the Persian Empire. Her story is very unique because she became a heroine in the nation of Israel's history. And if you will notice today, I have on my pink scarf, very shimmery, very Esther-like. She was, by all accounts, a very striking woman who was arrayed in all sorts of fine clothing and jewelry for her time. So there are a couple of quotes that sum up the essence of her story. One of them was said by her guardian. It says, do not imagine that you, all the Jews, will escape with your life by being in the king's palace. On the contrary, if you keep silent in this crisis, relief and deliverance will come to the Jews from another means, and you and your father's house will perish. And who knows, perhaps you have attained the royal position for such a crisis. And that was from her guardian Mordecai in Esther 4:13 and 14. And the other famous quote that comes from the book of Esther is the line that she issued, which says, "If I perish, I perish," as she prepared to intercede on behalf of her people by entering into the king's presence without being summoned. And that was found in Esther 4:16. So we're going to look at some of the characters found in the Esther narrative. We have Queen Vashti. We have Esther herself, obviously. We have King Xerxes, or Ahasuerus. We have Mordecai, and we have Haman. Queen Vashti, she was the reigning queen of the Persian Empire. However, she was deposed and banished from the kingdom for refusing to accommodate the king's summon to appear before his party guests wearing only the royal diadem. So she was banished, and there was a search throughout the kingdom for a new queen to replace her. We have Esther, who emerged as the winner, if you will, of this star search to become the next queen of Persia. Her name, Esther, she is our protagonist. Her name means a star of hope or star-like. And she also emerges as a savior of her people in a selfless act of bravery. We have Xerxes the king, obviously, who has vast holdings throughout the Persian Empire and the Middle Eastern region. We have Mordecai, who is Esther's uncle and protective guardian. And he suggests that she conceal her Jewish heritage. And as we will see as the events unfold, that wasn't a bad idea. Actually, it worked out in their favor that she found herself in a position where she could have a decisive role in saving her people. Then we have Haman, who is our villain, who is the antagonist of the story. He is clearly anti-Semitic, and he sought to exterminate the Jewish people. He was devoid of human kindness. He was just your regular all-around bad guy. The setting of Esther, the book of Esther, took place in ancient Persia. I've enclosed a map that you can actually compare Persia in the time of Esther, as well as look at where we see modern-day Iran, which is the ancient equivalent of ancient Persia. And I have a handout for you that you will be able to see and just look at the land and gather some thoughts about what was going on politically and culturally at the time. The story of Esther was written about 470 BC in Persia, and she actually became queen around 479 BC. The purpose of this story is to demonstrate God's love and sovereignty in all circumstances. It is a story that portrays or characterizes the Jews as they dealt with the effects of the diaspora, and many of them stayed behind after a few returned to Jerusalem after captivity. Babylon was conquered by the Persian Empire, and in a kind of a miracle, Esther does become the queen of this land. So if we look at chapters 1 and 2, Esther becomes the queen of Ahasuerus in Persia. She was personally chosen by the king. Normally, he had emissaries who handled that, and they did. But she actually found favor with him herself. So the king loved her more than all of the women, and she found favor and kindness with him. And the history would suggest it was because she was not only beautiful, but she was very intelligent, and something about her spirit spoke to him. Next, we move into chapters 3 and 4, where we see Esther's guardian, Mordecai, interacting with Haman, refusing to pay homage to him, which he didn't really appreciate. He is what we would call an egomaniac. So Haman is really upset with this, and it gives him an opportunity to destroy all of the Jews in the kingdom because his pride was wounded. So also there was a plot to kill the king, which Esther got wind of, and she let the king know, but she gave Mordecai the credit. So that also did not sit well with Haman. So it furthered his agenda to destroy the Jewish people. So if we look at the remainder of the book, from chapters 5 to 10, it's basically Esther outwitting Haman and taking her petition to the king for protection for her people. And Haman is not really on board with this because he is so bent on destroying the Jews, starting with Mordecai first, that he actually has this huge gallows erected, which will prove to become his own undoing. Now, Esther is a fascinating story because as I was looking into researching, I've taught this a couple of times over the recent years, but there are a lot of allusions, biblical allusions from Esther in art. And also in your handout, you will see the painting of Salvador Dali that he did in 1655, which shows it's an actually very interesting piece because it's one photograph, but it's both of their faces merged into it. It's kind of like those pictures where you look and do you see one face or two faces, or do you see a table, or do you see two faces together?